Hi, I'm Rahel Philipose and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express News Show. In this episode, we talk about the Aditya L1, India's mission to the sun, which is set to be launched tomorrow. We also talk about reservations for the OBC communities in Gujarat's local governance. But first, we talk about an alleged incident which took place at BHU, the Banaras Hindu University, which is considered one of the most prestigious central universities in the country. Earlier this week, the local police in the city lodged a complaint filed by an assistant professor at BHU who belongs to the Dalit community. The professor in her complaint says that she was assaulted, molested and humiliated in her department by two colleagues, including a woman and two students. To know about what happened, my colleague Shashank Bhargava spoke to the Indian Express's Asad Rehman, who reported on the story for the paper.
Asad, begin by telling us, when did this incident take place?
So as per the allegations leveled by an assistant professor at Banaras Hindu University, this incident happened on May 22 when the assistant professor was in her office, and some people she has named in her FIR, 4 in total, 2 assistant professors and 2 students who are PhD students and one of them is a PG student. So as per her complaint, these 4 people came to her office and started abusing her over her Dalit identity and said that they will strip her and make her go around the whole university as part of their anger towards her and to humiliate her. So this woman says that these accused then took her out of the office, shut the department gate and then beat her up while trying to do inappropriate things and molesting her. And then they also beat her up while restraining her and confining her to a closed space illegally. So this is what the incident was. As per the complaint, the incident happened on May 22nd.
And Asad, had she faced harassment from people within the university even prior to the incident?
So she does say in her complaint that she has been targeted for her Dalit identity in the past as well, and that these people did not like the fact that she did not listen to them and did not follow the orders that they gave, and they had a issue over that she was not being as per her obedient. And she does allege that she was constantly harassed and abused by these 4 accused. 2 of them are assistant professors and 2 of them are students. So this is an incident that she chose to report and go to the police for after this incident on May 22nd, where as per her, she was beaten up and humiliated and molested inside the university premises.
And what was the police's reaction when she filed the complaint?
So she filed a complaint the next day after the incident, which is May 22nd, this incident happened. The next day on May 23, she lodged a complaint with the local police station, and then she also spoke to several higher authorities in the police department, but no action was taken. And a case was only registered 3 days ago, and she's claimed that the FIR was only lodged after she wrote letters to the National SC/ST Commission and the HRD Ministry and the UP Chief Minister Office and other authorities in the government. So she claims that the police delayed filing the FIR, whereas the police say that the FIR was lodged after a preliminary investigation was conducted, and after that the FIR has been lodged.
Right, so more than 3 months after the incident took place. And Asad, the police not doing anything when the complainant first came to them. I mean, this is something that we have seen in other cases as well. Could you talk about how big of a problem that remains in the state?
Absolutely. I think the first reaction of the police when a woman lodges a complaint against her male colleagues, her neighbors, or anybody for that matter, is that maybe the woman has some ulterior motive or has some other reason for lodging the complaint, and maybe she's doing it as part of revenge. And this is a narrative that is there in our society as well. Every time you go to a village and talk about a sexual harassment or a rape case, there is always a counter narrative to it that the woman has some issues and that she is, the word they use is she's ladaku and she fights a lot. And so this narrative is very easy to spread in our society. So a similar thing has happened in this case also, where the police have not believed her prima facie, where when she lodged the complaint and have taken more than 2 months to lodge an FIR in the case. Whereas the police's defense is that we did a thorough investigation before we lodged the FIR, and in that it is part of the CRPC provisions, and that is why there was this delay in lodging the FIR. But this problem definitely exists across this region or across the country or across the state, however you want to see it, and it is a problem of like just gender disparity that, a woman, for anybody to believe a woman it seems very difficult. I mean, we saw that in the case of the wrestlers also, that there was a whole counter narrative that, they were doing it for their own gains and things like that. And an FIR was lodged much later, even though there were all these wrestlers and athletes who were leveling allegations against a BJP MP. So it is across regions and across social spectrum that we see these issues. And that's also one of the reasons why this case was delayed for so long.
And Asad, now that it has been more than 3 months, what action has the police taken? And have we heard anything from the university about this?
So the university has given a very standard answer that they're going to follow all procedures and that now it's a police case, so it's beyond their jurisdiction, and that the police will investigate it. The Indian Express reached out to the VC, but he did not talk and did not take our calls. The VC of the university, Sudhir Jain, did not pick up our calls and did not respond to us. But the public relations officer for the university has said that they are following all the procedures in this case but so far no action has been taken against any of the faculty members who've been accused in this case and any of the students who've been accused in this case. The police have also so far not made any arrests and have given a standard answer that they're investigating the case and action will be taken in the coming days if it is needed based on their investigation.
And Asad, considering that this incident happened in one of the biggest universities in the state and in an area where CCTV cameras were there, what do you think that says about this case?
The CCTV footage is part of the investigation. We tried to access that yesterday, but since it's part of the investigation, the police and the university authorities refused to give it to us. We haven't seen the CCTV footage, but the complainant has in her police complaint said that she's attaching the CCTV footage which shows this incident. Whereas one of the accused we spoke to yesterday says that there is nothing in the CCTV footage. On some level, it shows that the level of impunity or the level of if this incident is true and if the complaint is correct and if the investigation and the further findings do find this to be the case, that this is what has happened, it does show a great level of impunity among people, how they behave around a woman. And despite there being cameras, despite this incident happening inside a university department, they still went ahead and did it. So it shows that maybe they thought that the woman is not going to go to the police and is not going to lodge an FIR, but she did that. And maybe that is the reason they did what they did and thought that they might get away with it because the woman might not be in a position to file a complaint.
And next we talk about India's mission to the sun. Just days after the success of its Chandrayaan-3 mission, which successfully landed on the southern region of the moon last week, the Indian Space and Research Organization, ISRO, has announced its next big project, launching a spacecraft to study the sun. We are talking about ISRO's Aditya L1, which is all set to be launched tomorrow from the Sriharikota spaceport in Andhra Pradesh. Here, the Indian Express's Anonna Dutt explains the aim of ISRO's ambitious new mission.
So this is a solar observatory in space. It will study the sun, its different layers of atmosphere and, all these explosion events that happen on the sun for nearly 5 years. That's the main aim of the mission. But it will also see our spacecraft traveling one of the farthest distance so far. It will travel 1.5 million kilometers away.
This is nearly 4 times the distance traveled by the Chandrayaan missions and yet accounts for only 1% of the span between the Earth and the Sun, which will take Aditya L1 4 months to cover. In this segment, Anonna joins us to talk about the mission, its objectives, and what we can expect from it. Okay, so Anonna, can you start by telling us why it's important for us to study the sun in the first place?
So the sun, first of all, is the basis on which there is life on Earth. And apart from that, it is the closest star to us. So if we want to study stars, there's no greater example, because we can study the sun in much more detail than we can other stars in the Milky Way galaxy, or for that matter, other stars in other galaxies. We see them from far off. Here we are traveling not very close, but still a certain distance to the sun and looking directly at it.
Right. And can you tell us how ISRO actually plans to make this happen?
So basically the Aditya L1 mission, like the name suggests, will take the spacecraft to the L1 point between the sun and the Earth. So what happens, any two celestial objects have this 5 Lagrange points, where these are like parking spots in space, where the satellites don't have to expend a lot of fuel to stay in orbit, because the gravitational pull of these objects at the point is equivalent to the centripetal force that is required to keep the spacecraft in that orbit. So that's where our mission will go. Now, why this point? This point has been selected because it's between the Earth and the sun in a way that it goes beyond the moon. So the moon doesn't come in the way. So even if we at Earth, for example, experience solar eclipse, that doesn't affect this spacecraft. It can still continue to directly observe the sun. So that's what the mission is. At the L1 point, it will keep looking at the sun, and it has 7 payloads which will keep measuring different things, the different layers of the atmosphere, the magnetic particles that are ejected from the sun, the solar wind particles. All of this will get measured by the experiments.
Right. And can you elaborate on the payloads that the spacecraft will be carrying and, the kinds of experiments that ISRO has planned to conduct once the mission reaches the L1 point?
So the Aditya L1 mission will carry 7 science experiments on board, and the main payload, so to say, or the main science experiment on the mission is called Visible Emission Line Chronograph. Now the VLC measures the corona of the sun. Corona is one of the outermost layer of the sun's atmosphere, and it's not as bright as the sun itself. So if you have ever witnessed a complete solar eclipse, you tend to see a ring around the eclipse, and that ring is basically the corona of the sun. So that is what the VLC aims to study, which is difficult, because imagine a brighter light being at the center of it. So the payload actually has mechanism by which it cuts out the light coming from the sun's surface and just measures what's coming from the corona. And why is this important? It's important because it might give clues to scientists to solve one of the mysteries, so to say, about the sun, which is that the solar corona is actually much, much more hotter than the surface of the sun. The solar corona is about 1 million degrees Celsius, when the surface of the sun is about 5,500 degrees Celsius. So the scientists still do not really know what causes the solar corona to heat up to that level. Then they will all come together to also measure the particles that are emitted in the solar wind, that are also ejected during coronal mass ejections, solar flares. These particles coming out of the sun that would get measured by these instruments. This also will help the scientists understand the reason why, certain particles accelerate in the solar wind and come out of the sun, leaving the gravitational force. It will also look at the magnetic fields of the sun and how does that interact with our magnetic field, things like that.
Right. And can you tell us why a mission like this is significant for ISRO?
So if you're aware, now the government has also opened up the space sector to private players. And while private players are now developing ways to have commercial satellites, commercial launch vehicles, ISRO is focusing on purely research missions. Chandrayaan-3, which landed on the lunar South Pole recently, was one such example. Soon after, now we are launching our mission to study the sun, and we would also in the near future see the Gaganyaan mission.
And in the end, we talk about reservations for the OBC communities in Gujarat. On Tuesday, the Gujarat government announced 27% reservation for the OBC communities in all local institutions, including the Gram Panchayats, Taluka Panchayats, District Panchayats and municipal corporations. And this is significant because a little over 49% of Gujarat's total population comes under this category. Before this announcement, the state government under the Gujarat Panchayats Act had reserved only 10% of the seats for the OBC communities. It is also worth noting that the latest development comes after a year of major political slugfest between the state BJP government and the Congress over the issue of OBC reservations in local governance. To know more about the issue, my colleague Utsa Sarmin speaks to the Indian Express's Parimal A Dhabi in this segment.
So Parimal, what led the state government to announce the 27% reservation in local governance?
Yeah, the root of the entire issue of the government announcing 27%, it lies in a Supreme Court order in May last year. So the Supreme Court had ordered to all the state governments that to give OBC communities reservation in local bodies, they have to fulfill certain conditions. So one of the conditions was to appoint a dedicated commission which will ascertain the population of OBC communities in respective areas, I mean the rural and urban areas. And then on the basis of the recommendations of the commission, the state government has to give OBC communities reservation in the local bodies in proportion to their population. The court had also ordered that in absence of fulfillment of these conditions, the 10% or whatever the OBC reservation is there in respective states, it has to be converted into general category seats instead of the reservation for the OBC communities.
Right, and we understand that the Gujarat government did not implement the order, right? They did not appoint the commission that was ordered by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Gujarat government did not appoint a dedicated commission to ascertain the backwardness of the OBC communities and their population in the state. And in absence of that appointment of that commission, the State Election Commission, which was scheduled to hold elections in around 3,200 Gram Panchayats in the state in various districts, had written to all the district collectors that since there is no such a commission appointed by the state government, you please convert the 10% OBC seats in all these Gram Panchayat seats into general category seats. So now this issue became very controversial, and the main opposition party Congress, it took up it in a big way, and they started alleging that the BJP ruled government is out to finish off the OBC reservation in the state. So when this thing became politically very controversial in 2022, within days of the State Election Commission's letter to the district collectors, Gujarat government appointed a dedicated commission headed by a retired High Court judge, Justice K.S. Jhaveri. And then after that, the commission submitted its report in April this year. So following the submission of this report, the government on August 29th, the government announced 27% flat reservation for the OBC communities in local bodies of the state. But except in those areas where the PESA Act, which is Panchayats Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, these are the areas where the tribal population is in significant number. So in these areas, the OBC communities will continue to get 10% and not the 27%.
Right, so initially it was the Congress which was demanding this reservation for the OBC communities. But now that the BJP government has implemented it, they have raised concerns. What exactly are they saying?
Yeah, so the Congress is saying that the state government has totally violated the guidelines given by the Supreme Court in providing reservation to OBC communities in the state local bodies. They are saying that the Supreme Court had ordered that the OBC communities has to be given reservation in proportion to their population in respective areas. So they are saying that the Supreme Court has not told the state government to give flat 27%. They are saying that it has to be in proportion to the population of the OBC communities in the respective areas. So if in some areas the population is beyond 27%, then they have to be given more than 27% reservation in those areas. So this is the main contention of the Congress party right now, and they are saying that their agitation against the state government on the issue of OBC reservation will continue, and they are calling it the fight for the Swabhiman for the OBC communities.
And Parimal, can you tell us how has the state's BJP government reacted to these criticisms?
So the Gujarat BJP leaders in confidence, they are saying that the Congress party had always been trying to politicize the issue. They are saying that the state government was always ready and it always wanted to give this 27% reservation to the OBC communities in the local bodies. And the Congress tried to politicize the issue during the time when the government appointed the commission, and then the commission studied the issue and then submitted its report. So basically they are saying that the Congress party was trying to misguide the OBC communities. But now, since the government has announced this 27%, the BJP leaders are saying that the OBC communities, all the OBC communities, they have always been with BJP. But now with announcement of this 27% in local bodies, they will be in a stronger manner with the BJP. And they are confident that after this announcement of 27%, the BJP party is set to win all 26 seats in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections in 2024.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. It was written and produced by Utsa, Sarmin, Shashank, Bhargava and me, Rahel Philipose. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.